Hello, loves. Welcome to the Live Your Freedom Now podcast. I'm Megan Colleen Johnson, and this podcast is dedicated to discussing dominant cultural narratives and beliefs, what I call dominant dogma, how this keeps you from thriving in life and business, and how to overcome that dogma by living your freedom now. While this path sounds clean and straightforward, the truth is life and being human is messy. So around here, we value the both and. We'll hold space for where you're at and honor the freedom you'd like to see and feel within yourself. Hit subscribe to stay updated, and for more information about me, my work, and to download my free Freedom Manifesto with all the details on what dominant dogma is, head to megscolleen.com. If you're curious to have the dominant dogma in your life talked about on the podcast, shoot me a text at 312-815-2774 and fill me in. Episode 4. What's possible when you live your freedom now? Hello, creative humans. Today I am writing to you once again from my office. I am sitting in my velvet green chair, my unicorn mug in hand, full of delicious warm coffee to support my rising and my writing this morning. The sun is showing its face today, streaming through the window and placing its light on a little bookshelf that I have full of memories, manifestation lists, and a few items from beloved ancestors. As always, I invite you to take this time to notice your surroundings. Notice the textures, the colors, the light, and the weight of where you are and what's around you. Notice the freedom you have of embarking on this practice, a practice that no one can take away from you. Today, we are going to chat about what's possible and why this podcast is worth listening to. Essentially, I want to paint a picture of what living your freedom now actually looks and feels like. However, I think it's important to first speak to what living your freedom now is not. Unfortunately, these days, in increasing numbers and in expanding subcultures, freedom has been bastardized into a harmful dominant dogma of its own. It has been made into a mantra for inhumane action and used as an excuse to act without regard. Within this podcast and within my practice, I am seeking to bring humanity and regard back into our personal freedom journeys. I do not condone the growing bastardization of freedom. However, I understand that in order to bring humanity back into polarized spaces, we need to hold the both and. We need to listen. With that in mind, in these podcast conversations, I trust you to tend to your own energy and take responsibility for your needs as we evaluate the dominant dogma in our world. I'm not here to offer clean-cut answers for political crises. I'm here to help you question the paradigm of lack that you've been sold so you can find liberation in the present. So, with this in mind, what is possible? What does this freedom now actually look and feel like? To explain this, I want to take you on a journey. On this journey, I invite you to pause for a moment. If you have capacity, perhaps close your eyes or soften your gaze and take a deep breath. If you are driving or operating machinery, please know that I will be telling a story in a meditative tone. Please take care and be mindful. Now, I invite you to imagine you're standing at the edge of a lake. A small fishing dock laid out before you. Behind and around you is a quiet forest with dirt paths all leading down to the waters. Breathing deeply, you feel the fresh air filling your lungs, and you softly close your eyes. You hear the green leaves whispering and dancing on the soft wind. The water gently shifting and swaying as it laps against the small dock at your feet. A gentle droplet from the sky hits your face, and you hear the beginnings of a rainstorm reaching the water. Opening your eyes, you see the growing number of raindrops touching the water, causing thousands of small ripples across the surface of the lake. You breathe deep, and you step out onto the dock, leaving the cover of the trees. The many droplets now coat you in their warm summer temperature, as though inviting you into their song, their dance, their oneness. You make your way to the end of the dock and sit with your feet just touching the lake and its symphony of rain droplets. Then, taking a deep breath, you begin to sing. A deep, belly-driven song, without the worry of being heard, without even noticing if a soul were present. Just singing and crying and becoming one with this symphony of nature. You feel deeply connected, grounded, and free, filled with sadness, joy, and creativity all at once. Like your lost parts have been found, integrated, reclaimed. You feel whole. I now invite you, if your eyes were closed, to return to your body. Go ahead and wiggle your fingers and toes. Maybe take a final deep breath and open your eyes. This story that I just shared with you was me, roughly 14 years old, noticing the oneness of the universe around me, noticing the freedom, the possibility I could experience when I allowed all parts of me to the table, noticing the power I had to live my freedom now. Now, I wish I could say that I held on to that learning and that experience, but I had much to learn before, surrounding, and after my quote-unquote lake experience, to give the story a title. I navigated a lot of confusion and deep inner turmoil, enmeshment, narcissistic abuse, and additional traumatic experiences, both as a young person and as a growing adult, caused me to become a shapeshifter of sorts. In order to feel safe, I became a people pleaser. I learned how to fit the boxes, the dominant dogma of my subculture, and I taught myself to distrust my intuition. Ultimately, I became a ghost of who I truly am and who I knew I could be. As the years went on, I faced different seasons and lessons, which resulted in reaching out for support. With the guidance of my therapists, coaches, and mentors, I began to integrate my fragmented parts. I returned to wholeness and in turn reclaimed my freedom. I learned how to set boundaries, take up space, and step into personal responsibility in life and in business. I learned how to become my own healer, my own authority, my own business advisor, my own responsibility, my own leader. And I discovered anything is possible. And I believe this for you too. But don't just take it from me. Here is how some of my clients have experienced freedom after embarking on their own journey. Please note, some names mentioned have been altered for anonymity. Emily handed back dominant dogma, saying, "Put your head down, keep pushing, keep working, keep hustling." She knew the lifestyle dominant dogma had created for her was unsustainable, and for the sake of her mental, physical, and emotional well-being, she reached out for help and began co-creating a new path for her future. Specifically, within a month of our time coaching together, COVID-19 resulted in job cuts at her work. But because of her bravery to pursue a more aligned life, she had already lined up freelance work and a new business partnership to support her thriving. By leaning in and choosing her freedom, she also reclaimed her future. Michelle handed back dominant dogma, saying, "You're not enough." Michelle knew, somehow, that she didn't have to navigate life, motherhood, or her creative love of writing from this place. Through powerful and aligned action, she handed back the dominant dogma, developed a new relationship with her inner critic, and redefined what it looked like for her to be a mama of 3. By living her freedom now, Michelle reclaimed her worth. And then, utilizing her newfound self-confidence, she successfully launched a writing class for local mothers in her area. Ultimately, living your freedom now can result in many life shifts, both personally and as a ripple effect to those around you. I believe, on the individual level, when you begin your freedom journey, you are choosing your own liberation. I believe on the collective and global level, when you embark on your freedom journey, you are choosing to help liberate and heal the planet. When you no longer buy into the dominant dogma keeping you small, you play a part in collective healing. And that is where I'm going to wrap up for today. Next week, we will pick right back up as I share where we will be going from here for our next 2 months together. I'll see you next week. Freedom is yours. Thank you for joining me for another Live Your Freedom Now podcast episode. If you enjoyed this episode, I'm always so grateful for a 5-star rating, and you can learn more about me, my work, and download my free Freedom Manifesto at megscolleen.com. Curious to have the dominant dogma in your life talked about on the podcast? Shoot me a text at 312-815-2774 and fill me in. I'll see you next time, and as always, freedom is yours.